In this video, I wanted to talk about apostilles and the Apostille Convention. Now, I know that most people have only apostilled something once or twice in their life, if ever. Maybe you're watching this video because you've never apostilled something. Here in MyLatinLife, we're apostilling documents every single day for our clients and the visas that people are getting, birth certificates, police background checks. Pretty much everything needs an apostille. So in this video, I wanted to dive into the Hague Convention of 1961, which simplified the legalization of documents for use in 126 member countries, eliminating the need for complex embassy certifications. This is basically a system that was put in place, the Apostille Convention, and I wanted to understand this system a little bit better that is worldwide in nature. Some countries are part of it, some are not, and the general idea, what it does is it ensures that your birth certificates, marriage licenses, or diplomas are recognized abroad for visas, citizenship, or work. And yes, you can and should apostille your diploma from your university if you can. As soon as you graduate, you get your diploma, you should be apostilling it for use abroad because you never know if a job might lead you to Hong Kong or London or New York. The process involves a single apostille certificate issued by a designated authority, often within days. Non-members require lengthier legalization, making the convention a game changer for international affairs. If some people will remember that Canada was not part of the Apostille Convention until a few years ago. So 10 years ago, 5 years ago even, when I was legalizing documents for my own personal documents, as well as starting to help clients, there was no apostille convention in Canada, and you had to go get things legalized at the embassy, and it was a way more complicated process. Now, the apostilling in Canada is slow, as the government often is, but at least it's a one-stop shop versus the insane system how it used to be, where if you needed a visa for Dominican, you had to go to the Dominican embassy. And if you needed a visa for Paraguay, you go to the Paraguay consulate and you got to track these guys down. And the whole consulate might be one or two guys and they have no appointments. So at least with the apostilles, you're skipping this whole working with the embassy step in a lot of cases. Here's how the Apostille Convention works and how to use it effectively. Adopted in 1961, the Hague Convention abolishing the requirement of legalization of foreign public documents, streamlines the authentication of public documents across member states, including the US, Portugal, Dominican Republic, and most of the European Union. An apostille, a standardized certificate, really it's a certificate. I sometimes just call it a piece of paper, but I should be calling it a certificate. And this verifies a document's authenticity for use in another member country, bypassing traditional consular legalization. This applies to documents like court records, marriage certificates, and educational degrees. Non-member countries like China or I think Saudi Arabia follow separate, costlier processes. So here are some key requirements for apostille. Number one, the public document. The document must be a public record, like vital records, which are birth, marriage, and death certificates, notarized documents, like powers of attorney and affidavits, court documents, like divorce decrees and judgments, and educational records, like diplomas and transcripts issued by public institutions. Private documents, like contracts, may qualify if notarized by a public notary first. The next key requirement is issued in a member country. The document must originate from one of the 126 member countries or territories, such as if it's an American document, you get it apostilled in the US. If it's an Australian document, you get it apostilled in Australia. So you have to get the apostille in the country the document is from. The next key requirement for an apostille is it's intended for another member country. The apostille is valid only for use in member states. For non-members, traditional legalization through embassies is required. You might remember if you've gone to get an apostille, they ask you what country the document is intended for. And this trips people up sometimes because they think, oh, well, I might use it in any one of several different countries. What do I give them as a country? In effect, at least in most cases, I don't see any change to the certificate itself. And if you say, hey, this document is intended for Portugal, but then you later end up using it in Spain or the Dominican Republic, I don't think it makes a difference in 99% of cases. If anyone knows of some exceptions, maybe some countries handle it differently, let us know in the comments if you have any interesting anecdotes regarding the intended use in another member country of the apostille. And if you say, yeah, prepare this for me with the intention that it's for Paraguay, but then, they give you one, is there an issue there? I think in 99% of cases. Moving on to the next key requirement for apostille, the proper authority. The apostille must be issued by a competent authority designated by the issuing country, such as a Secretary of State in the US, the Foreign Ministry in Portugal, or the Central Electoral Board in the Dominican Republic. The next key requirement is you need the original or certified copy. So some countries require the original document, while others accept certified copies. Countries typically don't accept just a printed out scan of a document. You really have to get a certified copy. Check the issuing authority's rules on this one. Moving on to the physical presence requirements, because I think this is kind of an interesting thing that gets overlooked, but the Apostille Convention generally does not require physical presence in the issuing country to obtain an apostille, making it accessible for people abroad. However, specific procedures vary by country, and understanding these nuances is crucial. Here's a detailed breakdown. So number one, there's no mandatory presence. You can often request an apostille remotely by mail, online, or through a third party, such as a lawyer or apostille service. For example, in the US, you can mail documents to your state's Secretary of State. In Portugal, the Authority General's office accepts mailed requests. Then there's in-person options. Some countries, like Mexico, you can go in person to submit at the agency. If you're in the country, this can expedite processing because you can get same-day service. In the US, prior to the pandemic, you used to be able to get same-day service. Canada, too, in Ottawa, they had it in person before the pandemic. But last I heard, they still have not opened an in-person option for apostilles in Canada. In the US, it depends on the state. In Mexico, they have it in person in Mexico City, and it's actually quite efficient. We apostille documents in all of these countries, Canada, the US, Mexico, different Latin American countries, so we see how the different systems are in different countries and if they have in-person options or not. Another detail here might be proof of presence or residency. So countries typically do not require proof of residency or physical presence to issue an apostille. However, you may need to provide an identification such as a passport copy or a cover letter explaining the document's purpose. If using a third party, a notarized authorization letter may be needed so that they can apostille the document on your behalf. But usually, it's pretty difficult to apostille a document for someone that's alive, like obtaining someone's birth certificate and apostilling it. Well, typically the more difficult part there is obtaining the birth certificate, but also there could be a roadblock when it comes to apostilling the document as well. So now let's talk a bit about third-party services. If you are abroad, there are companies online that can handle the process, eliminating the need to travel. For US documents, we recommend Apostille USA. That's a company we've been recommending for over a year now. People have been pretty happy with it. So there's a link in the description to that service if you need an apostille for US documents. If you need an apostille for Canadian or Mexican documents, or really documents from anywhere, you can book a call with us, link in the description, and we can help you collect the apostilles and the documents from any country you need. So let's run through the apostille process. Number one, identify the document, confirm your document qualifies as a public record and requires an apostille for your target country. Number two, verify the issuing authority. Figure out who issues those apostilles, the competent authority in the document's country of origin. Three, prepare the document. Ensure the document is original or a certified copy. If the copy you have is old, you might want to order a new copy so that you're not apostilling a 30, 40-year-old copy of the document. Step 4, submit for apostille. Send or deliver the document to the competent authority by mail, online, or in person. Include potentially a request form, an ID copy, and payment. This all varies by country. Next, you'll receive the apostille. The authority attaches a square certificate with a unique number verifying the document's authenticity. Processing could take 1 to 14 to 30 days, up to 2 months. In the case of Canada, that's been really slow, and there are countries that are slower with apostilles than others. That's why sometimes there can be advantages of using a service that can potentially go in person or speed up the processing of the apostille, because when you do mail-in, it can be very slow. And then the next step, the final step, is use the document. Present the apostille document to the foreign authority. It might be a migrations institution. It might be a consulate, an employer. No further legalization is needed in member countries after the apostille. The apostille is as good as it gets for legalizing a document. So some common mistakes to avoid. Number one, the wrong authority. Do not submit the document to the wrong authority. For example, if it's a federal document, it needs to go to the federal office. If it's a state document, it needs to go to the state office in the US. Step 2, non-public documents. Private contracts or unnotarized papers don't qualify. Notarize private documents first. That's a good general rule of thumb. Mistake number 3 is non-member countries. Apostilles are invalid for non-member countries like China. You'll have to use traditional legalization instead. And then step 4 is incomplete preparation. Missing signatures or seals or inconsistencies on the names even could lead to rejection. So verify requirements beforehand. Next, some tips for success. Check the Hague Convention website for member countries and competent authorities before starting. So go to the official, basically government website. Then you can use a certified translator for documents that are not in the target country's language, as some agencies require translations alongside apostilles. I can tell you, for the visas we do at MyLatinLife, we don't ask you to translate your documents first, because we're going to translate them for you. Oftentimes it's not even needed, but for the countries where it is needed, we're going to do it for you, because usually it has to be a certified translator in that country that you're targeting or applying to. So for example, in Paraguay, it needs to be a Paraguayan translator for your documents, so we just do that for you. Another tip is hire an apostille service, especially if you're abroad or need multiple documents processed. Another tip is request multiple certified copies of vital records to apostille separately for different purposes. So most people don't know this, but you can have 2-3 copies of your birth certificate, apostille them all, and then send one out if you have to, and then hold on to another one so that you have one when you need it. They don't expire really, so you might as well just hold on to one. And track your submission. That's another tip with courier services. Make sure you get tracking on the envelopes that you send, especially if you do a return envelope thing. You want to get tracking on both. So you're tracking that the government received it, and then you're giving them the return envelope so they can send it back to you, and make sure you get tracking on that return envelope so that you know as soon as it's being put in the mail. So here's some benefits of the Apostille Convention. Global recognition. Documents are accepted in 126 member countries without further legalization. Number 2, time savings. Apostilles take a long time, but it's a lot less than it used to be for traditional legalization at embassies. That used to take weeks or months, now it can take days. Benefit 3 is the simplified process. One certificate replaces multi-step embassy validations. And benefit 4 is versatility. It can support diverse needs from immigration to education and business, and also you can get multiple documents to support all your different needs and to have extras on hand. Next step after the apostille is, you'll submit the apostille document to the requesting authority. Maybe it's the Paraguayan authorities that you want to get residency. Maybe it's a university thing or an employer. If you're using it in a non-member country, contact the target country's embassy for legalization steps. Store originals safely and keep copies for future needs. So some frequently asked questions as we get to wrapping up. Do I need to be in the issuing country? No. Mail or third-party services work, but in-person submission can be faster. 2. What if my country isn't a member? Then you got to use traditional legalization through the target country's embassy. 3. Can private documents be apostilled? Yes, oftentimes, if notarized by a public notary first. Next, how long is an apostille valid? It has no expiry, but the document itself may have time limits such as 6 months on criminal records. Last FAQ, do I need multiple apostilles? Yes, if using the document in multiple countries, as each apostille is country specific. Now we've talked about that a little bit in this video. Oftentimes you can get away with it. It's a hassle to double apostille a document, but that's another fun fact for you as we get to wrapping up that may be possible. The Apostille Convention simplifies international document use, saving time and hassle. Identify your document, contact the competent authority, and prepare it correctly. Use services or mail if abroad, and verify member status on the Hague Convention website. I think it's hcch.net. Share your questions or experiences in the comments. Remember, we have a link down below for Apostille USA, as well as our international apostille services at MyLatinLife. We're happy to help. And be sure to subscribe to the channel for more global mobility guides. See you in the next video.